Hi there, we are Lisa and Chris. Please join us aboard our main ship 390, Cool Beans, as we cruise America's Great Loop. Well, hi everybody. We had a request to put all of Cool Beans' tips of the week from all of our episodes into one video. So, without further ado, here you go. Enjoy! Chris's tip of the week.
If you're planning to do the loop or any other long-range voyage, start your search for a boat early. We searched for over a year and a half trying to find Cool Beans. Once we found her, it gave us only 5 months to get her ready, which has not seemed like enough time. Continuing with last week we talked about starting your search for a vessel early. My tip of the week this week is to hire a broker. We went through 3 different brokers. The first 2 did very little for us other than send us pictures from the internet. We can do that ourselves. Our third broker went and saw boats for us, researched boats for us, found their history. When we went to view boats with him, he showed us things that we would miss. He gave us things to look for, and we greatly appreciated his help. It was well worth our time, and we really appreciate his hard work and effort.
He even met us in Mobile, Alabama to look at a boat.
We drove to Mobile. He drove to Mobile to show us the boats, which was not necessary, but we were very grateful.
Yes, thanks to Eric. Okay, it's time for Chris's tip of the week.
This week, we are going to talk about surveyors. After you find your vessel, I highly recommend you have 2 surveys done, a vessel survey and a mechanical survey. These 2 surveyors, they're experts in their field. They'll be able to tell you every little thing that's wrong at the current time with your vessel, whether it be something as simple as a light bulb, or if they believe you're fixing to have severe mechanical failure. It is, it's not a cheap process, but it's worth every penny.
Agreed. What is your tip of the week this week?
This week, I think a great tip would be to hire a training captain.
Yes.
We were suggested to hire a training captain, and I really didn't think that I needed it. I've been boating my entire life, but there's a lot of difference between a 20-foot fishing boat and a 40-foot liveaboard.
Yep.
So we agreed, and we hired a training captain. The knowledge he gave us was tremendous. He showed us how all the features of the boat work, different systems. We practiced anchoring. We went over charts and reading your electronics. We spent about 20 hours with him total, and it was well worth the experience. And not only did we gain a lot of knowledge, we also gained 2 friends, Captain Tom and Captain Patty. We greatly appreciate all that y'all have done for us. Thank you.
Great tip, babe. So what is your tip of the week this week?
My tip this week comes from a gold looper. A gold looper is someone that's completed the loop. He's a friend of ours from Pima, Rob Roy. His boat is Bull. We were speaking with Rob Roy one morning, and he said, my best advice is if you wait till you're ready, you'll never leave.
That's right.
So the tip this week, it doesn't matter what your bucket list is. You'll spend weeks, months, years planning. Set a date. And that's exactly exactly what we did. We said we were leaving on or before Valentine's Day, and as it worked out, we left on Valentine's Day.
We did. All right, great tip. What is your tip of the week?
This week's tip is going to be to study the weather. Anytime you're heading out on the water, you need to make sure that you're prepared for the conditions. When we crossed the Gulf of Mexico, we probably spent over an hour checking weather. We used 3 or 4 different apps. We used NOAA weather radio. We talked to the local experts as far as they've spent their whole life on the water. They know the conditions, and they also use their sources. They talk to people that are actually on the water. But it's important to be prepared and know the conditions that you're going to be facing.
That's a great tip. What's your tip of the week?
This week we're going to talk about these oil absorbent pads. This is my tip for the week. We use these often. Every time we get fuel, we wrap these around the nozzle. No fuel spill. Absorbs right into the to the pad. Just got done with an oil change. Went through 3 or 4 of them. You're gonna spill. Soaks up the oil. It does not soak up water for some reason. Put them underneath the Raycor fuel filters. Had a pretty good spill. Not a drop got in the bilge. All right in the pads. You get them online. Worth every penny. I don't remember what we paid, but I know the more you order, the cheaper they get. Very good. Very highly recommended. Order you some.
So what is your tip of the week?
This week, tip of the week is a good set of binoculars. These are marine binoculars. They have a rangefinder in them. They also have a compass in them. They're fantastic for looking at wildlife. Something else you're going to use them for often is you're going to be approaching a vessel from behind. You need to know that vessel's name. You can find the name on the rear of the boat. Hail that vessel. Ask permission to pass on the port or the starboard or the one of the two, whichever they verify. We used these this week. We saw something skimming across the water. We couldn't tell what it was. I'll have Lisa put a picture of this little craft that we saw. Fantastic. These are not expensive. These were right at $100. Good set of binoculars. You don't need to spend $1,000 on a set of binoculars. Just do a research. Look online. Marine binoculars. Supposedly they float. We're not going to test that. Highly recommend. Good set of binoculars.
Good tip. What's your tip of the week?
This week's tip is to save as much money as possible when on the water. Before we left on our Great Loop adventure, I got to looking online if there was a website for marine fuel prices. And I came across the Waterway Guide fuel report, or fuel price report. And I got to studying it. It's broken down by regions where you are, like the Gulf of Mexico, Texas, through Florida, and then the Gulf Coast of Florida, and so on. And I was amazed at how the prices vary differently. And I just pulled up the Okeechobee Waterway, which we left there just a couple of weeks ago. And I found prices on the Okeechobee Waterway from $3.95 to $5.59. That's a huge difference when you're buying 100 to 200 gallons a time. But look it up, marine fuel prices, and the Waterway Guide will be the first one that pops up. Look it up, and it should save you some money.
I'll put a link on here too.
Great.
Thanks. What's your tip of the week?
This week's tip is Toadfish. Toadfish is a manufacturer. They make koozies, they make cups, they make this cup holder. As you can see how easy it picks up, but when it sets down, you can't really knock it over.
That's right.
This has been wonderful to have when we've been cruising. We've been in some pretty rough water at times. It's fell over one time in 2 months.
Yep.
Great to have to keep your ice water or whatever drink it is that you want at the helm.
What's your tip of the week?
This week's tip is, it's called Bob's Tracks 423. And we had kept hearing about Bob's Tracks and didn't really know what it was. And anyway, as y'all know, a couple of weeks ago we ran aground and we got off pretty easy. And then our friends, they ran aground right after we did in a different location. And so he installed Bob Tracks on his Navionics. And he was telling us and explaining how it works. And so we installed it also. Your chart plotter and your Navionics is all going to give you guidance on the best path to go. Bob's Tracks varies from that, and his tracks are better than what's on Navionics. And if you will just go to your search engine and search Bob's Tracks 423, it'll pop right up. There's tons of different ones, and you download it and it'll overlay right on top of Navionics. It'll also overlay Aquamaps. I'm not sure if it works with Pro Charts or not, but it's highly recommended. There's going to be times when it sends you outside the channel when you think that it makes no sense, but everybody that's using it swears by it. Look it up, Bob's Tracks 423.
And what location is it good for?
It's good from Fort Lauderdale to Norfolk, Virginia, the Atlantic Intracoastal Waterways.
That's right. All right, I'll put a link on and I'll show a screenshot.
Yeah, do some close-up screenshots.
Okay, will do. Good tip.
As you can see in the picture, the small dash line is where the center of the channel should be. The magenta line is Navionics recommended path. The yellow line is Bob's Tracks recommended path. From the people we've talked to and personal experience as well, Bob's Tracks definitely seems to be the most safe and most accurate.
What's your tip of the week?
This week's tip is a small portable generator. We bought this for emergency use only, but we found it works great when we're at anchor. We can plug this into our boat, run our small appliances, TV, ice maker, things like that, and it burns nothing in fuel compared to our big generator. This burns about a gallon every 6 to 8 hours. Our big generator burns a gallon an hour, and it's much, much quieter than our big generator.
Good tip. So what's your tip of the week?
This week's tip is redundancy. We, when we bought this boat, it had 2 radios on it. The ICOM, which is probably original to the boat, fantastic radio. And then somewhere along the way, someone added this smaller Standard Horizons. I really enjoyed using the ICOM. It's a much better radio. The only problem was the screen was burnt out. So we got on the internet and looked around, asked people who could fix these screens, and so many people, or not so many, a couple of people responded and said, just buy a new radio, it'll be cheaper. Well, the new version of this radio is $850. We spent less than $100 to have the screen replaced.
Yep.
So now we've got a great radio for less than $100, and I'm gonna get this thing installed and we'll show you a before and after picture when we're done.
Sounds good.
This week, Chris's tip of the week is going to be brought to you by Lisa. Lisa, what is your tip of the week?
Well, my tip of the week is when you are walking around the boat, especially if the boat's moving, not moving, it doesn't matter. If you're maneuvering on the bow of the boat, after the boat, whatever, wear boat shoes. Don't wear flip-flops. And I can tell you this now from experience. So the other day, we were leaving Deltaville, and we had gotten brand new lines for the boat, and they're made out of nylon, braided nylon. And these were really, really shiny and brand new. The boat was super dry. It hadn't gotten dew or anything. And I was up here in my flip-flops. I was, I don't know, we had just left. I was wrapping up the lines, and I went down hard. Right here, it's actually on this side, I bruised some ribs. It's absolutely miserable. So no flip-flops is my tip of the week. What's your tip of the week?
This week's tip is just general boat maintenance. We just completed an oil change on Cool Beans. We change about every 150 hours. The owner's manual recommends 250, which seems like a lot to me. I know some people change as often as every 100 hours. But I've got two manual. I've got a service manual for our engine and also a parts catalog in case we need to order any parts. What you need to do is learn as much as you can, do as much of the maintenance as you can yourself. Today our oil change costs us about $100. To have that done in a marina is probably going to cost you upwards of $300 to $400. Just anything you can do will save you money, and also in the long run, you take care of your boat, it's going to take care of you.
Good tip. What is your tip of the week?
This week's tip is a good radar. We are currently in heavy fog. It's actually starting to lift. We weren't expecting any fog today, but it kind of surprised us. And we were already offshore. And we've been using our radar. We're traveling with two boats, and you can see them here. These are the two boats we're following. And we're about a half a mile behind them. But a good radar comes in very handy when it's conditions like this.
I agree. Good tip. What is your tip of the week?
This week, the tip's going to have to do with squeaking dock lines. I've got two ways to cure squeaking dock lines. I'll show you one this week, one next week. The easiest way we found, if at night you've got a line squeaking, you can't get to sleep, all you need is your dish soap. Squirt a little dish soap on your line. It won't squeak again for the rest of the night. Next week, I'll show you another way to make your line stop squeaking.
Great tip, honey. Thank you. What's your tip of the week?
Last week we talked about squeaking dock lines, and I showed you just add some soap right to the part of the line where it's rubbing against the boat and squeaking. This week I'm going to show you another way. We've got a couple of little dock lines in our bucket. We're going to cover them with water. We're going to add just a little bit of soap. And a heavy dose of your favorite fabric softener. We'll fill this up. We'll let them set for, I don't know, a couple hours. Pull them out and let them dry. It should have gotten all the salt out of them and also softened them up. Shouldn't squeak for you anymore.
All right, great tip. What is your tip of the week?
This week we went through 20-something locks, and we realized the fenders we had, they just weren't cutting it, they weren't big enough, especially on the bow of the boat. We ordered these 15-inch ball fenders to protect the front of the boat and the locks. Highly recommend you order a few of these for your boat if you're going to be going through a lot of the locks.
Agreed. Can't wait to use them.
Our bonus tip for the week, that's Lisa's folding wagon. It's come in very handy. Today was laundry day, so it was put to the test. It's also great when we have grocery deliveries, just anything like that. It's been a great purchase for us.
What is your tip of the week?
This week's tip has to do with leaving the loop and going back home. As many of you know, we spent 3 weeks back in Texas seeing our friends and family. And I encourage you, if you're feeling the need to go back home, I really encourage you to do that. It was so rewarding to see our family, so special to see our friends. We'd been gone a little bit over 4 months, and we really enjoyed seeing everyone. And we need to say thank you to our friends and family who are helping taking care of our things at home. It's greatly appreciated and heartfelt. So if you're feeling the need to go back home, I encourage you to leave the loop, go back home as long as you need to, and you can pick the loop up after you take care of your friends and family at home.
I agree. Great tip, babe.
Thank you.
What is your tip of the week?
This week's tip is how easy it is to check into Canada. We were kind of nervous thinking this was going to be some big deal to get checked in, have our boat inspected. It was none of that. We called an 800 number. They asked us for our passport numbers, which we had. They asked us for our boat documentation number. We had that. She asked us a few simple questions, you know, about what we had on board, if we had any firearms or alcohol, you know, these kind of things. And it was simple as that. She gave us a reporting number, and we made a little card for each side of the boat and put it in the windows, and it was that simple. Nothing to it.
Great tip. What is your tip of the week?
This week's tip is courtesy of our friend Allison aboard Cygnus. We were visiting them on their boat, and we started talking about food storage. As you know, the boat environment's very humid, very wet, and food storage is very important. Your bread doesn't seem to last as long, tortillas, those types of things. And she showed us she uses her microwave to store her bread and tortillas and those types of things. It's just an added layer of protection to keep them out of the moisture. And we found it seems to help.
I agree. Thanks, Allison. What's your tip of the week?
This week's tip is general preventative maintenance. We're going to check the engine strainer today. We just came up the Trent Severn. Lots of shallow water, lots of grass and weeds. And our friend Don on Tranquility, he said he just checked his, and he had a big ball of weeds stuck in his. He said it was the size of a baseball. So we're going to open this up real quick and see how ours looks. I don't know if y'all can see that, but we've got some grass and weeds in here about this high. Not bad, but it definitely needs to be cleaned. So we're going to get this clean and reinstall.
Put the flashlight behind it. I think you can see it better. Oh, yeah. Yep, you can see it. All right. Great tip. Thanks, Chris and Don.
Lisa got the sea strainer shaken out. All the weeds and grass are gone. Not only do we have this one, we've got one for the AC, which I check on a regular basis. We've got one for the generator, which I check occasionally. We use the generator so rarely. But this simple preventive maintenance, this thing gets clogged, your engine gets no water and overheats, and you've got big problems.
What's your tip of the week?
Just a quick reminder, my tip this week is on a good quality PFD, personal flotation device. Unfortunately, we haven't been wearing them as often as we should, but we're doing much better. Some of y'all may or may not know, about 6 or 8 weeks ago, Lisa fell while the boat was underway, and we both kind of agreed from that point on, if the boat's underway and you're on the deck, PFD is on. We wear them in the locks. Anytime there's a possibility of any kind of accident, we have them on, and we recommend you do the same.
100% agree. Good tip, babe.
You bet.
What is your tip of the week?
This week's tip's very loop specific. There's lots of good books out there on the loop, places to see, different stops, marinas, restaurants, that type of thing. But a local suggested that we go through Mill Lake and Collins Inlet after we left the Bad River anchorages. And we didn't see this in any of the books. But if you plan on doing the loop, I would write down Mill Lake, Collins Inlet. Very, very beautiful area. We really enjoyed it. There's no telling how many pictures and videos we took. Highly suggest you put that on your list of places to go.
I agree. Great tip, hon. What is your tip of the week?
This week's tip is very loop specific. Susie aboard Tranquility requested this. When we came back to the United States, we thought check-in was going to be pretty easy. We found out we needed a sticker that we thought we could purchase at any marina or port on Lake Michigan. We found out that was not the case. So we tried to check in on the app. The app kept kicking us out because we didn't have a sticker number. We found a 1-800 helpline, called it, and it had a recording that actually said, "We cannot help you." So Don found a website, a video on how to get registered on the internet. Susie figured out how to do it on the phone, so she spent the rest of the afternoon helping us and strumming along, get registered to get our sticker number so we could re-enter the United States. So the tip is, make sure you do this well ahead of time so you don't have to do the fiasco that we went through.
Good tip. Thank you, Suze. What is your tip of the week?
This week's tip comes from Reed aboard Live the Dash. He and his sister Lauren are taking their parents on the Great Loop. He suggests, and I agree, to always make sure the power is turned off to your pedestal before you plug in, and I agree with him. Whenever you're hooking up, you don't want a sudden surge of power going into your boat. Most of these boats, they either have two 30-amp cords or one 50-amp cord. You need to make sure you have the right adapters because you never know what the marina is going to have. This adapter is two 30s into one 50. If you have a 50 and all they have is a two 30s, you're going to need a adapter that's just the opposite, a 50 into two 30s. We use this adapter, which is a 110 to a 30 amp plug, whenever we use the small Honda generator. Works out great for us whenever we're at anchor and we don't want to run the big generator.
Great tips. What is your tip of the week?
This week I wanted to show you our water system and how to correctly hook up to city water. We're going to start at the boat. The first item we have here is a pressure regulator that regulates the water not over 40 psi. Next we have a flexible hose, a water cutoff, which is very important. We cut the water off every time we leave the boat. That way if something goes wrong, it's not flooding our boat. Our filter, our dedicated hose that's only used for city water. We don't use this for washing the boat or anything else. It's always had clean, fresh water in it. I don't have to worry about it. I know it's not contaminated. Now we'll show you what we do before we hook up to city water. The first thing I'd like to do is turn the water on, flush the lines. I kind of get an idea of how much pressure we have. In this instance, pretty easy to see that this city water has lots of pressure. In this case, I'll use a pressure regulator on this side of the hose also. We were in a situation where we were hooked up without a pressure regulator. On this end of the hose, and our hose started expanding. I thought it was going to break the hose. But since then, on high pressure systems, I use a pressure regulator on both sides of the hose.
Great tip. Hello, I'm going to do tip of the week this week instead of Chris. My tip is get a grocery delivery service. We chose Walmart Plus. What we do is we just do a little online order. It gives you about a 2-hour window when they're going to deliver. They text you when they're on their way. And I just met him at the end of this dock up here. And see, there's all my groceries. I'm pulling them on my cart, headed back to the boat. So it's very handy. We generally like to get most of our dry goods there. We tend to get our meats and vegetables at another, like a local grocery store that we can pick them out. But Walmart's been pretty good. They're not perfect, but they're not bad. That's my tip. What is your tip of the week?
This week it's not really a tip, but it's just a suggestion. We went through Chicago this week. When you go through Chicago, you have to be under 17 feet. So we lowered our mast. Most boats, many boats, when you lower the mast, they have a cradle already built onto the boat for you to rest it on. We didn't have that luxury, so we rested it on a chair, which seemed fine, but it was really unstable. We took a couple of ratchet straps to hold it in place. They're not tight at all. They're just got it secure, got us below 17 feet. Not telling you this is how to do it, but this is how we did it.
Well, I think it's a great tip because downtown Chicago was awesome.
It was amazing, and this is very secure. We've been traveling with it for 2 days.
Yep.
And we're fixing to stand it back up.
Great tip, honey.
This week's tip is how to clean up after spiders. A few of the marinas we have stopped at had a big spider problem. Brewerton really comes to mind, and I don't remember the one we just stopped at recently. The spiders leave droppings all over your boat. So we looked up how to clean spider droppings, and this Starbright bird and spider kept popping up everywhere as the best stuff to clean up after it. So what all there is to it, squirt it. I don't know if you can see it on the video. It's already coming off.
Wow.
That's not perfect, but as you can see, with just a little bit of scrubbing, this stuff really works. Highly recommended.
Great tip, babe. What is your tip of the week?
This week's tip comes from Hoppies. We stayed at Hoppies a few nights ago, tied to a barge on the river, and the lady that runs Hoppies, she was telling us in the mornings we need to clear our props. And simply what that means is you're going to put it in reverse while you're still secured to the dock. During the night, debris comes floating down the river. There's a possibility it could get hung up into your prop or props. And simply all you do is you're in neutral, idle. You're just going to bump it into reverse just for a second or two. Anything that was hung in your prop, it's going to flush it back out.
Great tip. What is your tip of the week?
This week's tip is to get you a captain's log and use it. We received our first one from some friends of ours, and we're now on our third one. We log everything in here each morning. Lisa fills it out, engine hours, any maintenance done to the boat, anytime we get fuel, anytime we change filters, everything goes into the captain's log. Anything interesting we see along the way, she also takes note of.
That's a great tip.
Hope it helps someone.
What is your tip of the week?
This week we're going to talk about our tongue depressor that everyone, or not everyone, many people have questioned. What is the purpose of this with the red and green tongue depressor? It just serves as a reminder. On our chalk plotter, you know, if we were traveling up this path here between the red and greens, you know, it's very simple to see that on your chart plotter, stay between the red and greens. You know, that's no issue. Where this comes in handy is when you're in open water and there's a single red or a single green. This will just be a constant reminder on which side of the buoy we need to be on.
It is a great tip. And where did we get that from? Or who did we get it from?
I don't remember the lady's name, but her boat was Grace, and she's from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And we met her on the dock, and she said, I've got something for you. So she went over to her boat and brought this back, and it's been on our upper helm ever since.
And it's been very helpful.
Absolutely.
Good tip, babe. What is your tip of the week?
This week's tip is for those people who are considering or planning to do the Great Loop. We went to the Rendezvous. We just left a few days ago. Really enjoyed it. Met so many people that are considering the loop, but we were both kind of surprised at some of the lack of knowledge. The Rendezvous will definitely help you with that. Read as many books as you can, talk to as many people as you can. But the thing that surprised us most is people are planning to do the loop in 1 to 2 years, and they haven't even started looking for their boat. That is not going to be an easy search. It doesn't really matter your budget. There's just so much on the market. You've got to look and see on what you want, what you need, and then you can start narrowing the search. But this week's tip, if you're planning to do the loop, really start looking for your boat early.
That's a great tip, honey.